Hey there, tonight we're going somewhere damp, somewhere cold, somewhere that still echoes, with boots and whispers and the soft trickle of water down earthen walls. We're going back to the trenches of the First World War, but not for glory, not for heroism, just to see what it was really like to be there, to live there. To wake with lice in your seams and mud in your mouth, to wait for letters, to wait for silence, to wait for anything but the sound of rain. Now, before we begin, go ahead and settle in. Maybe dim your screen, turn on a soft fan, or some white noise if you'd like. Anything gentle, anything slow, to help the world fall away just a little bit. And if you haven't yet, feel free to like the video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy these long, slow journeys through forgotten corners of the past. And while you're here, let me know in the comments, where are you listening from and what time is it for you? It's always comforting to see who else is up with us at midnight, at 3 a.m., just letting the mind drift into the quiet. So let's begin. Let's step into the mud. Imagine it is the spring of 1916. You're 20 years old. Your boots are new, but not for long. You arrived yesterday in northern France after a long journey by train and then truck, and finally on foot. The landscape is flat and gray, and everything is wet. It hasn't stopped raining in over a week. The rain soaks everything: socks, uniforms, rifles, letters from home. The bottom of the trench fills up with water. Sometimes it's ankle deep. They're supposed to keep your feet out of the mud. They don't. They float when the trench floods. They crack when they dry. Beneath them, water and worse. They're huge, bigger than cats, some of them. They feed on everything: food scraps, dead bodies. Even the living, if there's still enough. They nest in the dugouts. You hear them at night, scratching, breeding, screaming, forgotten tools. Bits of uniform, once a boot, still filled, sometimes more. You try to sleep while sitting on a wooden box, your knees pulled tight to your chest. It helps, a little. You still scratch, everyone does. But the shirt shrank 3 sizes and burned out the seams. Sometimes a tin of condensed milk, if you're lucky. Quickly, standing, rain falling, steam rising from the food. Then back to your post, if the mail got through, if the road wasn't shelled, if the cook didn't fall ill. You drink it scalding hot, even if it burns. The warmth is worth it. You cradle the mug like it's gold. He laughed, but not really. Even the rats look miserable. You are surrounded by other men, most of them just as young as you, their faces streaked with mud and weariness. It's not clean. It's not orderly. It's not deep enough to stand in, of sweat and mold and latrines dug too shallow. But there's something else, too. Under the duckboards, lost in no man's land. Sometimes you dig into them, a metallic scent, sharp and faint, you don't ask. You know, less shouting, more whispers, less shelling, more wind. You line the letters, say you're well, say you're warm, say you'll be home soon. And if the cold gets into your fingers or toes, you might not feel them again. Trench foot starts that way. A tingling, then swelling, then nothing. You saw a man's foot go gray and black. They sent him to the rear. Everyone said he was lucky, but it's too deep to climb out of easily. The ground is heavy and sticky. Your shovel comes up full of clay and roots and pieces of old, rotting sandbag. You count the seconds, dates, places, sometimes jokes, sometimes prayers, betting on how many rats they can kill with a bayonet in an hour. No one talks about it. You don't hear as well anymore. Some men go deaf, others go quiet, and stay that way, but you can't kill them all. There are too many. They say rats carry disease. You believe it. You hear your heart louder than your boots. It smells of mold and smoke and something else, something sharp. You don't ask. Your shirt seems itch first, then your collar. Then your thighs. The lice are tiny, white or gray. You whisper or not at all. When retrieving wounded, when repairing wires. You pray to stay low. You pray not to slip. You pray not to be seen. The next shift, the next dry pair of socks, if you can find one. Trees snapped like matchsticks, shell holes filled with rain, and worse. They live in your clothing, your bedding, your hair. Someone brews tea, someone else counts heads. The sergeant makes a note. You're still here. They lay eggs. The officers call them chats. You don't know them well, not yet. But soon you will know them better than anyone. Your sergeant says nothing when you arrive. He hands you a shovel. You just breathe and move and wait. Always leaking, always collapsing. And there's always more to do, always more mud. You start to dig. You're digging into a trench line that's already seen years of war. In the trenches, there are no seasons, only wet or dry, and dry doesn't come often. The wood planks under your boots are called duckboards. You keep moving because if you don't, the cold sets in. You've never seen rats like these, not in size, not in number. Some of the men make games out of it. You sleep with a blanket pulled up to your chin, tightly, tighter. One night you feel something move under it. You swat it. It bites you. Pages carried in a shirt pocket through days of silence, through nights of fire. He didn't write long letters, but he kept a diary. A small one, just enough space for a sentence or two each day. Pages from the trench left behind. Eggs for breakfast, but cold. Joan sang a song, forgot the words halfway through. In the margins of a pocket-sized journal. The rat lives. You learn to tuck the blanket in tighter. Found a photograph in the mud. Didn't know the face. Then come the lice. You scratch, then scratch again, except for a few pages. There's powder to fight them. It smells like petrol. You rub it in every morning, every night. One man boiled his shirt to kill the lice. It worked. Worked alongside his father until 1915, when he enlisted. Meals irregular, but dull. Tinned beef, tinned stew, tinned jam, hard biscuits, dry as bone. You line up with your mess tin. You wait, you eat. Socks to boots. Men to moments. Tea is the only comfort. Strong, black, and sweet if there's sugar. Everything has a smell. The trench smells of damp earth and coal smoke. The dead are part of the trench. Buried in the walls. The first time you screamed. Now you just stop. Look away. Fill in the hole. One rat and kit bag dead. Each day repeats itself. 2 hours on sentry. 4 off, 2 on, 4 off. Day bleeds into night. There's no difference in the dark. Only the sound changes. You write letters when you can. Short ones. Your hands shake. The pencil breaks. You try again. You won't. but you say it anyway. Someone sings sometimes, a low, tired tune. Someone else carves names into the wooden walls. You don't think about the future, just the next hour. Beyond the trench is no man's land, flat, broken, wires twisted like skeletons. Everything looked like glass, even the mud, even the wire. Because they were all that filled the day, you look at it only when ordered to. When going over, sometimes bodies lie for weeks. No one can reach them. You know their names, you knew their voices. Now crows know them better. Shelling comes without warning, a distant whistle. Then closer, then the ground erupts. You throw yourself down, you curl up. You cover your head. It can last a minute, or hours, sometimes days. Your ears ring for days after. You feel it in your bones. Of hope starts noting only nouns. Only time. You know the look now. Eyes that don't blink. Hands that shake when there's no cold. Those men are sent back or sent nowhere. Night in the trench is different. The stars are dim, the sky low. Every sound sharper. You patrol the parapet. You check the periscope. You watch for flares. You listen for movement. You dream in half sleep. You startle awake. You check your rifle. You wait, a piece of chalk shaped like a star, and wait, and wait. Morning comes gray. Always gray. You dry your boots barely. You change your socks. You brush lice from your collar. You eat, you sit, you wait. And then you dig again, because the trench is always falling in. Always more rain. You don't cry. You don't shout. You don't complain. One day at a time. One trench at a time. Let's leave the mud now. Let's go deeper, not into the ground, but into memory. A quiet memory, written in pencil, left behind by someone who was never famous, but who was there. Let's hear his voice. When you're ready, not every soldier was a hero. Not every name was written on memorials. Some slipped away quietly, their stories almost lost. Pages worn at the corners, smudged with rain and dirt and thumbprints. Private Herbert Smith was not famous. He wasn't decorated. No grand thoughts, just details. Simple, steady details of what it meant to live one more day. Stomach not right, too many flies. Shot overhead in the morning, still ringing. Didn't write more. His first entry is dated May 14th, 1916. Rained all night, kit soaked. Socks still wet from Thursday. No complaint, no poetry. Just a moment. Another page. Shelling started before dawn. We stayed down. No one spoke for hours. Tea went cold. You begin to understand. That silence was the loudest part of war. But Herbert's diary is more than entries. It's a thread, one that ties day to day. Herbert Smith came from Yorkshire, a coal miner's son, the fourth of 7 children. He left school at 14. He didn't join for glory or even duty. His family said it was for the uniform and the boots and the pay. 15 shillings a week. Woke up cold. He joined the 14th Battalion, West Yorkshire Regiment, known as the Bantams. They were shorter men. Recruits under 5'3", once deemed too small for war. But the army changed its mind when the need grew. Herbert was 5'2". He barely made the cutoff, but he carried more than most. Some entries are practical. Socks dry by fire. Smell of smoke and everything. Sergeant let us rest after digging detail. Some are strangely lyrical. Frost this morning. Others read like fragments of memory. Carter told a joke at tea, laughed too hard, spilled it all. Didn't matter. It was already cold. You feel his rhythm, the slow repetition, the small things that became large. His writing is sparse, never more than 4 lines, but it builds, entry by entry, a slow picture of routine, of fatigue, of waiting, of existing. Jones, Talbot, Carter, Sims, they appear again and again. Jones sings. Talbot writes. Sims scratches letters into a biscuit tin. Then they start to disappear. Talbot went to dressing station, arm wound. Said he'd write, didn't. Sims buried today, caught in wire, couldn't get him out. Left helmet by trench lip. You sense the erosion of company, of comfort. Herbert stops using full sentences. Shells, wind, tea, sleep, cold. Didn't change the course of war. 1 page is blank, then just 1 line the next day. Felt like summer. 5 minutes, then rain. He clings to little things, a bar of soap. A letter from his sister. He keeps them in a tin. Wrapped in a spare sock, he notes in his diary, found flower growing near latrine. Picked it, put in tin. Looks like something Mom had on the windowsill. Even in the trench, something living. Just 1 bloom. He draws it, crude, shaky lines, but you can see what it was, a daisy. Herbert writes about sound a lot. He describes boots squelching like bread dough, wires singing in the wind. Asterisk, a low hum in the ground before the big guns go off. He notices things and shares them, but never explains. The diary wasn't for anyone else. It was for him, a place to put what he couldn't say. A soft echo, a private tether. Some entries go dark. Didn't eat. Another, 3 gone today. Don't know their names. Don't want to know. Then, felt sick, smelled gas, wrong direction, crawled fast. Lost helmet. You see the strain. His handwriting changes. Slants more, less legible. More pressure on the page, or blotches. Less order, like a voice cracking. The entries slow. Then a burst of them. He writes every few hours, short bursts. Asterisk orders came. Going over soon. Clean boots. Pointless. Asterisk. Fixed bayonet. Hands shook. Tea helped. Dreamed of firewood. Mum's kitchen. Felt warm. His second to last entry. Asterisk. Said goodbye to Jones. He gave me his pencil. Doesn't want it back. And the final entry. Asterisk. Tomorrow. Hope coat holds. Hope feet stay dry. If not, hope it's quick. Nothing more. Herbert's body wasn't recovered right away. A shell collapsed part of the trench during an advance. He was found weeks later. Someone opened his coat. Found the tin. Inside the sock, the diary. Wrapped in oil paper. Still legible. The sergeant kept it. Didn't want to leave it. Took it back across the channel. Mailed it to the family with a brief note. Found with him. He wrote, thought you'd want it. Her name was Lydia. She read it all. Didn't speak for 3 days. Then donated it to a local church. Asked them to keep it safe. Years later, it ended up in a museum archive. Not on display. Just stored. Still folded in the sock. The daisy pressed between pages faded to yellow. Herbert didn't lead charges. But he wrote. He remembered. He paid attention. And in doing so, He preserves something rare, the sound of mud, the weight of wet cloth, the whisper of names fading from lips. He is not famous, but he is real, a quiet thread in the fabric of history, still holding, still warm, still here. Let's go somewhere quieter now, not just away from the mud, but beneath it, beneath the shouting, beneath the shelling, beneath the thousand boots stomping through clay, deeper, darker, colder, and stranger. You're in France, near Arras. The year is 1917. The trench behind you stinks of latrines and wet canvas and rust. But now, you're descending. You've been handed a lantern. A rope ladder creaks beneath your feet, and with each careful step downward, the noise above fades, until all you can hear is the slow breath of the earth and water, always water, somewhere nearby, dripping, steady, like a clock. At the bottom, the space opens, and what you see, you weren't expecting. A hallway, not dirt chalk. White stone, soft and slightly damp, carved smooth, polished by thousands of hands. The ceiling is low. You duck slightly, but the walls stretch sideways, winding into narrow corridors, doorways, chambers, and in one of them, a light, a fire, crackling low. A tin kettle hung above it. You're not alone down here. These are the underground cities. Tunnels dug by hand and machine, carved into chalk and limestone, and transformed into shelters, barracks, hospitals, and something else entirely. A world beneath the war. The British called theirs barrack towns. The French, souterrains. The Germans, understunned. Each side, digging, spying, listening, building, and sometimes hiding. The Arras tunnels stretched for nearly 20 kilometers, wide enough to hold 24,000 troops. They had names, street signs, even electric lights powered by field generators. One corridor was nicknamed Piccadilly, another Regent Street, a piece of London buried beneath France. As you walk forward now, your boots echo faintly on stone. You pass a dormitory room, rows of narrow beds cut directly into the chalk wall. Each bunk is numbered. One has a scarf tied to the post. Another, a photograph pinned to the wall. A young woman, faded, smiling. Further in, a mess hall. Wooden benches, scratched and stained, but solid. A chalkboard leans against the corner. A faint message written in French. Soup ce soir, 19HOO. Soup tonight, 7 p.m. There's no soup now. Just dust, but the memory clings quietly. In another tunnel, you find something stranger. A mural, painted right onto the wall, simple but careful. A tree, a house, a cafe, a woman with a red ribbon in her hair. The artist signed it, G. Lemare, April 1917, and nothing else. Who was he? Did he survive? Did anyone see this mural but you? The tunnels were more than hideouts. They were lifelines. Above, the war. Below, the waiting, the planning, the dreaming, and sometimes the escape. Whole battalions moved underground. Before the Battle of Vimy Ridge, Canadian troops staged secretly in these chalk tunnels. They surfaced from hidden doors, cut into the hillsides, rushing forward before the Germans even knew they were there. Some victories began in silence, and yet these were not always safe places. Tunnel collapses, gas leaks, enemy infiltration. In some parts of the front, German and Allied diggers tunneled toward each other, meeting in the dark. The result? Underground warfare, hand to hand, shovels, knives, explosives, battles no one heard. Others weren't battles, but deaths all the same. A miscalculated angle, a weakened wall, a careless cough too close to powder, and the tunnel would seal forever. Some entrances were deliberately collapsed after the war, marked as unsafe or forgotten. In the town of Roneville, an old woman once said the cellar under her bakery had a second door, bricked shut long ago. Her father told her never to open it, said the wind there smelled too old, too cold. No one ever checked. The bakery closed. The story faded. In 2004, in Niort, a tourist site guide stumbled into a blocked corridor and found what no one had expected. Not just tunnels, but graffiti. Thousands of names, dates, regiments, places. Australian soldiers mostly. Men who had walked through these tunnels a century before. Left their marks in pencil, chalk, and soot. Messages like, still alive, 1916, or simply, I was here, a record, not in a library, but in stone. Not all tunnels were military. Some had been carved in the Middle Ages, storage vaults, wine cellars, monk passages. When war came, they were claimed, repurposed, occupied, history layered upon history. Archaeologists have found old coins mixed with bullet casings, a Roman tile beside a World War I mess tin. Time folds underground, and there are rumors still of tunnels that twist deeper than they should, of rooms with furniture untouched, of phonographs left on crates, silent but ready. A woman once said she'd seen a staircase descending beyond the light of her torch, but it was sealed with bricks. No mortar, just placed there carefully. She never returned. Were there chapels that were never used again? Maps that were erased? Tunnels drawn on paper but lost in rain or in bureaucracy? The war ended. The world moved on. But beneath some towns, the silence remains. Even today, on cold nights in certain fields near Lens or Cambrai, locals say you can hear a hollow ring underfoot, like a chamber, or a shaft, waiting, listening. What did these underground cities mean? They were practical, yes, but also emotional, a break from fear, a sense of order, a reminder that not everything had to be horror, a place to write a letter, to say a prayer, to pretend, and perhaps most of all, to leave something behind, not glory, not victory, just a name, a sketch, a phrase on the wall, something that said, I was here, I passed through, I mattered. Even if no one ever found it again, and now you found it in your mind. In the quiet of this moment, you've walked the halls carved by forgotten hands. You've felt the soft curve of chalk under your palm. You've breathed air that hasn't stirred in 100 years, and maybe you've left something behind too. Even just a thought, a breath, a listening ear. Sometimes that's all it takes to keep a place alive. Now it's time to climb back up, to the surface, to the rain, to the trench, but carry with you the weightless quiet of all that stone and all those names. Let's return now and finish this night with one more story. A warm room, a real meal, A reminder that even in war, not everyone starved. Let's go somewhere quiet again. Just a few yards behind the front line, but a world away. You've just left the trench. The mud is still caked to your boots. But now you're stepping into something else. A dugout, not like yours. This one has a door and a latch and a man in uniform waiting beside it. He nods as you pass, then pulls the door closed behind you. Inside, the air is warmer, still musty, still underground, but warmer. You smell pipe smoke, candle wax, something savory, something familiar, stew, meat, and a hint of red wine. This is the officer's mess. It's a dugout like the others, dug into the side of a slope, timber bird with rough wood and sandbags. But it's larger. It has a table, chairs, even tablecloths, stained but real. On the walls, photos clipped from newspapers, maps, menus from French cafes, and in one corner, a phonograph. It's not playing now, but sometimes it does. You take a seat. Not because you belong here, but because you've been allowed in just for tonight to carry a message. Or perhaps because the captain felt generous. On the table, a pot of hot stew, a basket of bread, crusty, not damp, not moldy. There's real butter, tinned, yes, but smooth, not rancid. There's cheese from a French village not far away, and a bottle. Red, no label, but it smells rich, full-bodied, fruit, oak, a little smoke, wine. A junior officer gestures for you to eat. He's young. His uniform is clean, his hands soft, not cracked, not cut, not blackened by cordite or trench mud. You notice the ring on his finger, a family crest. He smiles politely. Almost embarrassed, another man lights a cigarette, offers you one. You decline. You pick up the spoon. The stew is hot, meaty, thick with barley and carrots, seasoned. You take a bite, and it nearly brings tears to your eyes, not because it's good, but because it's warm, because it's not hardtack, because it's not cold beef from a tin. You chew slowly, letting each bite rest on your tongue. You can't help but think of the men outside, still in the trench, still eating from their tins, still swallowing in silence. This is the divide, not the front lines, not the wire, not even the rifles. It's here, in this dugout, in this soup, in this moment of warmth, shared by so few. The officers eat well, better at least. Not always extravagantly, but consistently. They have access to better supplies, sometimes sent from home, sometimes requisitioned locally, sometimes simply cleaned. In letters home, they mention roast dinners, pudding, pork, preserves. In the diaries of junior officers, eggs, cognac, even chocolate. They were not untouched by hardship, but they were cushioned from it. And why? Because of rank, because of class, because war, even here, still mirrored the world it came from, a world of hierarchy, of difference, of privilege. Officers were mostly drawn from the upper classes, educated, connected, expected to lead. And with that came comfort, access, protection, and food. Sometimes when rations were low, it was the enlisted men who suffered first. Their meals reduced to soup made from bone water and cabbage. Their portions smaller, less sugar, less fat, no meat. And yet the officers still dined. Sometimes they gave extra rations to their men. Sometimes they didn't. It depended on the man, on the day, on the mood. But the food wasn't just food. It was control. It was separation. You see, the army depended on structure, on rules, on lines, drawn not just on maps, but in kitchens and dugouts, and on plates. Keeping the officers fed, even as men starved, was part of that control. A full officer was a functioning officer. A hungry one was unpredictable. And yet, many officers did try to bridge the gap. Some refused their own rations. Others ate beside their men, or sent gifts home to be distributed among their platoon. There are stories of lieutenants giving up their wine, captains sharing their cigarettes. Not always, but sometimes, and those moments were remembered more than medals, more than speeches, a warm meal shared on a cold night, a gesture, a pause in the divide. Still, the resentment lingered. In some regiments, mutiny simmered beneath the surface, not over tactics, not over the war itself, but over food, over cold biscuits, served beside the smell of roasting meat, over hunger, beside abundance. Now picture this. It's December 1917. The ground is frozen, your belly is empty. You've been living on tea and turnips for days. You pass an officer's shelter, and the scent of roasting goose drifts through a crack in the planks. Your stomach turns, not from hunger, but from the knowledge that someone not far from you is warm and full and safe. Food is memory. Food is power. And in war, it becomes something else. It becomes a symbol of what you have, of what you lack, of who matters and who does not. And so as you finish your meal, that rare bowl of hot stew, you thank the officer quietly, without expression. You stand, you nod, you step back into the cold. The trench welcomes you like a wet blanket, heavy, familiar, and the smell of stew fades behind you, lost in the wind. That was a glimpse. Just a moment inside the officer's mess. But now we return to where we began, to silence, to mud, to memory. Let's settle in now and slowly ease out of this journey. So now the lamps are low. The candles have burned down, and the last match has gone out. We've wandered through places most would rather forget. Places buried in mud and time and memory. You've walked the duck boards. You've sat in the dark beside a rat. You've traced the pencil marks of a quiet soldier who never made the papers. And you've seen the soft tablecloth where wine still poured while others starved. All of it, just one war, one moment. In the long rhythm of human history, and still we remember. Maybe you're still awake, maybe you're not. But either way, let's take one last breath together. Right now, you're safe. You're warm. You are not in a trench. You are not waiting for a whistle in the night. You are not listening for the scrape of a rat or the silence of a shell that didn't land. You are here, in a soft room, with your screen dimmed, your pillow cool, and time slowing down, and tomorrow you'll wake in a world that's not perfect. But it's not 1916. You won't need a candle to see your way forward. You won't need rations, or a helmet, or a bayonet. Just your breath, just your quiet, just this moment. So now close your eyes if you haven't already. Let the weight of the past drift away and know that tonight you've walked far and gently and deeply. Sleep well, sleep warm, and I'll see you next time. Good night.